do you have time to do like a short reading?
Yeah, sure.
What would you like to read?
Okay, maybe I'll read what's going to be part of this other thing.
Oh, cool.
This other book I've been working on called Speaky. They're kind of like monologues, I guess. That would be the easiest way to describe them. Though this first one isn't necessarily a monologue, but they're kind of people who are overtaken by language and just can't shut up and just go off on one. Okay, this is called Speaky Stonehenge. I was thinking about it last week as I was helping Kath to her seat, that Stonehenge is stitched into the English national psyche, but genomic research published in 2018 suggests the Neolithic people who constructed Stonehenge and their descendants, who carried the memory of its use, were replaced by beaker people from Central Europe and Iberia over 4,000 years ago. I was thinking, this alters the relationship between Stonehenge and its visitors. Though white English tourists might see themselves as communing with their ancestors at Stonehenge, it could be said that foreign tourists encounter it in a way more closely resembling that of Britain's ancestors, as bizarre objects out of time and space. I was thinking this as I was helping Kath to her seat. It's standard to refer to Bronze Age cultures by their styles of pottery, like bell beakers or corded ware. The beaker people are defined by the vessels they used. An analogy could be drawn with language use. Focus on the speaker ignores the extent to which language, a kind of vessel, speaks through us. I was thinking this as I helped Kath to her seat, and Frank shouted across the room at me. He wanted a cup of tea. "Speaky English," he shouted. At first I misheard him. I thought he was maybe using speaky in a sense that was new to me, indicating a counterpart to the speaker. In my head, Frank was asking me if I was not so much a speaker of English, in control of my language, as a speakee, someone to whom the language, English, only flows through. I was thinking this as I helped Kath to her seat. I remembered meeting Gary 4 years ago. He was an administrator at English Heritage, and he told me that a month after his mum died, he'd gone to Stonehenge. He stepped over the ropes and stood in the middle of the stone circle, at which point he realised that it was a monument to our ancestors. He was crying as he said this, so I didn't mention the beaker people. He paused at the word, "our," and looked at me. It could have been the association with his mum, the private "our" he'd lost, but that look seemed to suggest a public "our," which excluded me. "I felt that," he said. I was thinking about this last week as I helped Kath to her seat and Frank shouted across the room. I thought of Stonehenge. The speaker stands inside the monument, unable to experience it. Instead, the monument speaks through them. They are the speakee.
Whoa! Audience goes wild. Wow, that's such a beautiful poem. Well,
thank you. Is it a poem? I don't know.
It's also really enjoyable to see you read it and to see the pauses and the breaks, but also the smile. I feel that you were enjoying reading it, and it made me enjoy it even more to be able to share that.
A one-to-one reading. Maybe this is how all reading should happen.
It's true. You've got an amazing cast of characters here that feel very real, and there's so much that goes on within this. Is a lot of your writing kind of this process of collecting and piecing together? You've got Kath and Gary, and then there's this kind of research, and you then separate, or the speaker, that's you also thinking about all of this as well.
I definitely like names. I like people speaking, but often I think this is where I fall down compared to maybe a novelist. I don't really think of them as necessarily as fleshed out people. I often think of them as literally as voices, as names and voices. And I think that's how I experience the world. Often it's just this plethora of people talking. Yeah, I do keep notes of stuff people say, and of things and of thoughts I have, and I do essentially work just how you described. I eventually build them up into certain people saying things, but it's funny. I just maybe I feel a degree of fraudulence because I don't really think about them in a novelistic way. I think about it in quite a loose and associative way, though I'm dealing with some of the same stuff as fiction, as that form of storytelling, i.e. people and and talking.
And I suppose all of that is an extension of life, really, that these maybe what might seem unrelated conversations or events do come together to create something that's a feeling or an understanding of the world or an understanding of ourselves. And that's what poetry does so beautifully, because those interactions feel very poignant together. And that's often what happens in life, is things happen and we connect them and they remain connected in our mind.
Yeah, completely. And often the poignant moments are when people stutter or break or say the wrong thing. And that's something I'm interested in. I mean, a classic poetry exercise is to just transcribe or record a conversation, maybe a conversation you overhear on the street. And the way and the texture of how people talk is often so strange and bizarre, but you rarely see it recreated, I guess, because it can be quite tedious to actually reread often, but it can also be really exciting and really revelatory, because people do make weird leaps and people do say weird things and you just skate over it in my day-to-day conversation.
That's another example of you being very in touch with that kind of creative intuition to listen or to think what's under that little mistake or slip up someone's made. And you can really hear the sensitivity in that poem as well, because multiple times you're giving someone a chance of, well, I assumed that what he was trying to say was this. You're trying to understand people and what they're saying to you, the words that they're using. Or even at the end when he's saying, you're making quite a stretch then to really understand or feel for him or feel to understand what he means. There's a huge amount of sensitivity that comes across in your attempts to really like understand people in that poem.
I mean, R is often a very charged word, and I think people register that on some level when they use it, even if they don't, it's never explicitly brought into a conversation. I mean, maybe I've always been sensitive to that. But yeah, this is our town. This is our pub.
When you have the repetition of a word like monument and you're editing, how much do you look at word choice? Do you go off a lot more about sound? Or are you thinking about words that you repeat and where to cut them and where to use them and why that feels powerful?
Yeah, I'm thinking about both. I mean, I at some point in the editing process, I probably change every word almost. But like I was saying, you often end up, rearranging all the furniture and putting everything back where it was at the beginning, or with one item slightly rearranged, and that's the best. It's funny, and the danger with editing, like I said, I mean, maybe I'm more alive to that than is helpful. The danger with editing for me is often that you smooth out the difficulties, like the longer words, for example. That's like a classic thing. I think editing can often monosyllabize. That's not really a word, but make work more like monosyllabic and smoother, because you'll be like, oh, that word's too like clunky and weird. I've got to replace it with this. But often the clunky words add really nice texture to sentences. I think about it a lot. How whatever MFA culture, or whatever you want to call it, maybe even just the internet and the way people consume writing has made our sentences more similar. People that use generally shorter, clearer sentences, which is fine, which is good in lots of ways, but it also limits the tonal range and palette. So anyway, all of this is to say, I try and keep as much of the oddness as possible in, and the randomness, the like fortuity of like picking one word over another, because that's interesting.
It's a beautiful poem. Thank you so much for reading it.
That's great.